So it seems like some major Star Wars projects, some projects that a lot of people were very much looking forward to, but has some skepticism about because of who was involved with these projects, it seems like those projects have been saved by none other than Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Let's check it out. So back whenever Disney had that investor event, whenever they pretty much straight up announced to us the Filoniverse that we all speculated was going to happen, we all thought that Dave Filoni was going to get his own Star Wars universe within the universe that was already created to kind of try to improve the sequel trilogy, or maybe even straight up retcon the sequel trilogy. Well, that didn't straight up end up being announced at that investor event, but it was announced that he would get his own Star Wars universe to kind of play in and to create his own stories in with some new characters and some old characters. We all know this already, but two projects that was announced that a lot of people were very skeptical about, but at the same time a lot of people were very excited about. One being the Taika Waititi movie, which a lot of people have a lot of hope for, but obviously Taika Waititi has some haters because every single Hollywood director out there is going to have haters. So a lot of people are very skeptical about Taika Waititi bringing in his own style of humor into the Star Wars universe. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but the main project that a lot of people were very skeptical on that was announced at that investor event was the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie. A lot of people have been looking forward to figuring out what the next Star Wars movie would be, and we got two of them announced. The next two Star Wars movies were announced at that investor event, and a lot of people, whenever they heard the Rogue Squadron movie was being made, they thought it was a very cool concept, and Patty Jenkins at the time had only done Wonder Woman 1. Wonder Woman 2 wasn't quite out yet. So whenever it was announced that Patty Jenkins will be doing a Rogue Squadron movie, and she had a dad that was actually a fighter pilot, she knew what it felt like to be in one of those, so she can make the chase scene, she can make the flying scenes feel very real, kind of reminiscent of the Millennium Falcon chase scene in The Force Awakens. One of the best chase scenes in all of cinema, in cinema history, in my opinion. I think that that scene alone was one of the best chase scenes, not even just sci-fi, not even just Star Wars, just chase scenes in general. I think it was a great, it felt like you were really in the Millennium Falcon. I felt like that was top notch. To be doing this movie, I felt like she could give us an entire movie of those types of chase scenes where we really feel like we're in the X-Wings, a Rogue Squadron movie about X-Wings, about fighter pilots, and it feels like we're in those X-Wings the entire movie. That's what I initially thought. I thought Patty Jenkins was a great addition to that project. I thought she would be a great director, but whenever Wonder Woman 2 came out, a lot of people, including myself, began to get very skeptical about this movie because Patty Jenkins, the only difference between Wonder Woman 1 and 2 is that Patty Jenkins was very successful with Wonder Woman 1, so she had a lot more power when it came to Wonder Woman 2, or Wonder Woman 1984, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people out there like that movie. That's fine. A lot of people do like that movie. Somehow it has like a 79 or 77% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I can show you that real quick right here. Somehow it has a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know it's kind of off the screen a little bit, but it only has a 59% when it comes to the critic rating. So a lot of people didn't like this movie. A lot of people, including myself, thought that this movie, especially compared to the first one, was just lackluster. I really did enjoy the first one. So after I saw this movie, me and a lot of other people were very skeptical about this Rogue Squadron movie because we didn't know who was writing it. I was under the impression that Patty Jenkins would be writing it because they didn't really announce a writer. They only announced the director. So whenever I saw that Patty Jenkins, was writing and directing Wonder Woman 84, I just kind of assumed that she would be writing and directing Rogue Squadron. I don't know if that was the original plan or not. They might have had that plan. That might have been in their original plan. And then once they saw Wonder Woman 84 and saw that it was kind of a flop, that a lot of people didn't like the writing in it, but the directing was fine. The directing was pretty good. It was good enough. And I think that if Patty Jenkins really does know what it feels like to be inside of a jet, that she can really make it feel, she can really have some great direction on the Rogue Squadron movie as long as she's not writing it. And we got some very good news when it comes to this today. So as you can see right here, this article is from Hollywood Reporter, so as reliable as it gets. Star Wars Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron gets a writer. This will be the first Star Wars movie from Lucasfilm since 2019's Rise of Skywalker, and I don't believe we have a release date yet. I don't even believe that we have a release year. I don't even think we have any clue when this movie is going to be coming out, but what this article gives us is a very good feeling about where this movie would go, because whether you want to admit it or not, Patty Jenkins is a talented director. Wonder Woman 1 and Wonder Woman 1984 were both very well directed. That wasn't the problem with those movies. That wasn't the problem with 84 at all. The problem with 84 was the writing and the storyline. As long as Patty Jenkins isn't the only writer, as long as there's other people in there to tell her whenever she's going out of line, even if she is a writer on the movie, that'll be fine. As long as she's not the head writer for the movie, we'll be totally fine. And obviously, she's not the head writer for the movie. Obviously, this guy is. I don't even know his name yet. It doesn't even say his name yet. But the mystery of who is writing Patty Jenkins' Star Wars movie has been solved. There it is. Matthew Robinson, who co-wrote and co-directed with Ricky Gervais the 2019 comedy The Invention of Lying, is penning the script to Rogue Squadron, which Jenkins is due to direct for Lucasfilm and Disney, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. So like I said earlier, everyone kind of assumed whenever she was announced to be directing the movie that she would also be writing it, because it just kind of seemed like her career was going in that direction. It just kind of seemed like she was writing and directing Wonder Woman 84, and now she would be writing and directing Rogue Squadron, because they only announced her. They didn't announce the writer. So I just kind of assumed that. Maybe that was a bad assumption. I don't know. But I think that even Lucasfilm kind of assumed that. I think Lucasfilm wanted her to write and direct this movie until they saw 84. And I think Dave Filoni being promoted to head creative director of Star Wars had a lot to do with this. I think he went out there and said, you know what, Patty, you're a great director, but obviously your writing is just not there yet. Maybe you need some more practice, but the place to get your practice is not on a Star Wars movie. That's not a place where you practice. It's not a place where you experiment. That's a place where you have to be perfect. You cannot experiment. You cannot practice on a Star Wars movie. Everything has to be perfect on a Star Wars movie, because even if everything is perfect, people are still going to tear your movie apart. So everything has to be perfect, or your movie is going to absolutely flop at the box office. So I think he went up to Patty Jenkins and said, you know what, you're a very talented director, and I think you can do a great job on this, directing this movie, making it feel like these chase scenes are actually real, making us feel like we're in these X-Wings, like we're in all of these ships, just like J.J. Abrams did with the Force Awakens chase scene in the Millennium Falcon. I'm not saying J.J. Abrams did a great job with the sequels, but all I'm saying is that scene with the Millennium Falcon chase with Rey inside the Millennium Falcon with Finn, that was one of the best chase scenes of all time, if not the best chase scene of all time. If Patty Jenkins can give us a movie of all of that, which I really think that she can, and I think Dave Filoni thinks that she can as well, I just know that Dave Filoni knows that she's not a very good writer. So this movie can be extremely good if someone like Matthew Robinson, which I don't know much about, I don't know much about what he has done in the past, but I know that having him write this has to be better than having Patty Jenkins write it, because he is a writer. She's not a writer, she's a director, and a lot of these directors nowadays, a lot of these actors want to be directors, a lot of these directors want to be writers and actors, and it's kind of weird because some people like Taika Waititi can do it. He can pull it off. Taika Waititi is very talented. He can be an actor in his movies that he's also directing. But a lot of these people out there who are actors that just want to be directors, it just doesn't work out. And a lot of these directors that want to be writers, it doesn't work out. And I don't know if Patty Jenkins is one of those people. Maybe she will be one of the best writers of all time in the future, but now is not the time to figure that out. After Wonder Woman 84, after proving that that was not a well-written movie, you cannot try to prove yourself again on a Star Wars movie. Like I said, that's just not the place to try and prove yourself. That's the place to execute with perfection. But another thing that a lot of people have been scared about from that investor event is this Taika Waititi Star Wars movie, because like I said, a lot of people are scared that Taika Waititi would try to insert his humor a bit too much and it would take away from the storyline of his Star Wars movie. Well, I think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni obviously know what they're doing. I think Jon Favreau probably gave the word to Dave Filoni, gave a good word on Taika Waititi for this Star Wars movie and said, you know what? I think Taika is a great director. Yes, his humor doesn't necessarily fit the Star Wars universe, but look what he did on The Mandalorian. A great episode in The Mandalorian season 1 finale. Great episode. So well directed, and he even was able to fit in some of that Taika Waititi humor here and there. It wasn't overwhelming. It fit pretty well. Shockingly pretty well, because I didn't think Taika Waititi's humor could fit in the Star Wars universe either, but whenever it was compared or whenever it was paired with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and they were there to tell Taika Waititi when he was going too far, when he had to cut some scenes out because it was a little bit too much Taika Waititi humor, which you know they had to do. Whenever they were there to tell him when that was going on, it worked to perfection in my opinion. I think that that season 1 finale was very, very well done, was very well written and directed, and Taika Waititi did a great job, and he's doing his own movie, and I think with Dave Filoni being the head of creative direction at Star Wars now, it will be fine. It will be a great movie. A lot of people a long time ago would ask me, whenever I first started my channel, whenever my channel first started getting traction, who would you want to make a Star Wars movie? If you could have any director in the world make a Star Wars movie, who would it be? And I would always say Taika Waititi. So whenever he was announced to be doing a Star Wars movie, I was very excited. And now that we have Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau actually gaining power, Kathleen Kennedy losing power at Lucasfilm, actually Kathleen Kennedy probably getting fired when it comes to October, and I think Taika Waititi's movie will be a long time down the line. So Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni will have a lot of power by then. Dave Filoni already has enough power to make a very good movie with Taika Waititi. So I think Taika Waititi, Patty Jenkins movies, they will both be very good. I think Rogue Squadron is a pretty cool concept. I hope there's a Force user in there somewhere, but I think that movie will be pretty good, paired with Dave Filoni, paired with Jon Favreau, and now paired with an actual writer that knows what they are doing, because Patty Jenkins is just not that good of a writer yet. Like I said, maybe she will be in the future, but as of now, she is just not there. Taika Waititi's movie, once again, whenever you're paired up with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, it's going to be hard to make bad content when it comes to Star Wars, especially live action Star Wars, because the animated stuff can have a lot of filler here and there. Maybe it's not for everyone, but the live action stuff is going to be good, especially when you have Taika Waititi with that Taika Waititi humor that I love. And he's also just a good director outside of that. It's not just humor. He doesn't just do humor. Watch Jojo Rabbit and you know what I'm talking about. Yes, it's a funny movie, but it's definitely not just humor. It's a great movie. So whenever you can have Taika Waititi, who's very good at humor, yes, but also a very good director outside of that, like I said, paired with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni for an entire movie, it's going to be good stuff, man. I'm very excited for the future of Star Wars. I'm very excited that Kathleen Kennedy, that the wrong people are losing power and the right people are gaining power in Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. It's a bright future ahead, but let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. What do you think about Patty Jenkins and Taika Waititi's Star Wars movies? Are you as optimistic as I am, especially after hearing that Patty Jenkins won't be writing her own movie, but actually a writer is hired on, an actual writer will be writing that movie instead of Patty Jenkins trying to just exert her power onto the writing position? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both those links will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching the video. I hope to see you in the next one.